Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the July Rushcliffe Borough Council Cabinet meeting. Could I have apologies for absence, please?
Councillor Moore, I believe, is in attendance tonight.
Right, thank you very much. Any declarations of interest? No? Okay. The minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of June 2019. Do I have a proposer for those, please? Councillor Mason, seconder. Councillor Upton. All's in favour to adopt those minutes? Thank you very much. Opposition group leaders, questions. I believe we have one question. If I could ask Councillor Thomas to come to the chair.
Hello everybody. This is a question about the Growth Board report. The Growth Board report recommends reducing meetings of the Eastleigh Board to 2 per year, whilst Bingham remains at 4 and West Bridgford at 3. Continued dialogue is needed to develop infrastructure to support Eastleigh's explosive unplanned growth. The Growth Board has the ability to get the relevant parties around a table, to call them to account and try to move things forward, and fewer meetings means slower progress. The question is, from which date is it planned to change the frequency of the meetings, and could this be delayed in the case of Eastleigh?
Okay, I'll ask Councillor Upton, please, to answer that question for you. Sorry, Councillor Edivine. Sorry, beg your pardon. Sorry, I'm looking at him.
Okay. Yes, the next meeting of the Eastleigh Growth Board is in October, as agreed at the last meeting, and thereafter it is proposed that we will have 2 meetings a year.
So my supplementary question is it proposed to consult the Eastleigh Growth Board members about the frequency of meetings before implementing this decision?
We can have a discussion at the next meeting, but I can assure Councillor Thomas that fewer meetings will not mean slower progress, and if projects progress faster, then we can call more frequent meetings. Officers will work on specific projects between meetings so that progress is not impaired.
Good. Okay, thank you. We have any citizens' questions, Mr. Vinnie? Thank you. Okay, move on to item 6, which is the Local Growth Board's update and review. Councillor Edivine.
Thank you. I propose that we accept the recommendations in this report. The Growth Boards are important vehicles for us as a council to facilitate and drive change, bringing together stakeholders to identify needs and create an action plan for implementation. The paper quite rightly says that the role of the Growth Boards has not been reviewed for a couple of years, so this is timely. And it also considers both resource and level of live projects requiring delivery and over what timescale. So far, the Growth Boards have achieved many tangible successes. West Bridgford has seen the Commissioner's report and many recommendations are being taken forward, such as the Tudor Square Master Plan and development of the West Bridgford Way. In Radcliffe, we have seen the development of the Economic Master Plan and hope to see some improvements to the public realm soon to come to fruition. The Eastleigh Board has been engaged with Severn Trent to ensure that the capacity of the infrastructure is reviewed and action to upgrade is going to be implemented. The County Council have offered funding to improve the Gotham Road T-junction, and we have established that delivering a new health centre is the top priority for the CCG. In Bingham, the master plan for Brilliant Bingham has been completed, and the new leisure centre is at the heart of delivering facilities for the residents. A new Bingham market manager has been appointed, which has already had an impact on the use of the market square. It's right that we should form a Fareham Growth Board, and from the outset of this substantial project. And it is also right that we continue to support other large villages such as Ruddington and Keyworth. So I'm delighted that we are proposing to extend the shopfront improvement grant across the borough, subject to approval by the Strategic Growth Board. The report makes the point quite clearly that much work goes on between meetings and that delivery of achievable goals will not be impacted by the frequency of meetings. And I therefore propose that we accept the recommendations set out in paragraph 2, namely that Cabinet approves the establishment of a new growth board for Fareham and extending the existing membership of Fareham Development Board, that the Radcliffe-on-Trent and East Leek growth boards meet twice a year, and a review of the scope of the shopfront improvement grant and funding is to be considered by the Strategic Growth Board at its meeting in July. And obviously I therefore propose that we accept that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Edwin. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Upton.
Yes, Chairman, very pleased to second this report. It's nearly 2 years, as Councillor Devine said, since the last review of the growth boards, and I think it's right to look at them again, especially with the Key Fareham strategic site coming on stream, and I think it rightly needs a growth board. Staff resources are finite, and I think the proposed changes are both realistic and reasonable. From personal experience, a lot of work does go on between the formal meetings by the officers at the council. Indeed, as chairman of the West Bridgford Growth Board and a member of the Radcliffe-on-Trent Board, I can vouch that these boards do act as a focus, if you like, for bringing together the right people to drive the agreed action plans of the particular board for a particular locality. So I am supporting the report and the recommendations.
Thank you very much, Councillor Upton. I think it's very important we should just remember that some years ago, before the growth boards, we had many strategic partners right across the borough, such as education, Severn Trent, etc., and we all used to work really individual and have those individual dialogues. So I think a real big success is actually bringing the right people around the table, and at least you can have that dialogue. It's coordinated, and as Councillor Edwin and Councillor Upton have said, there actually been real tangible success. I have to say, I think there's adjustment to working together. I think it's we have to be realistic that, particularly with the current funding issues and constraints, we can't deliver everything we can in the timescales we want to. But getting people around the table, I think, is a huge success. And I think our residents, our businesses, I think, really appreciate that. There's now voice, because I think the business clubs, for instance, they have representation as well. And I'm also delighted with Fareham as well, because as we know, that's going to be one of the biggest developments anywhere across the borough. And at this early stage, to get the right people around the table, I think it's going to really ensure that we get a first-class development and we get all the right representations there. So before we move, any more comments? Yes, Councillor Mason.
Thank you. I was pleased to see about the review of the shopfront improvement grant and that it will be looked at by the Strategic Growth Board. I think there is room for extending this to other areas. I know that there have been comments from other areas too, and I think that would be excellent if we can have a look at that and see how we can improve the improvement grant. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so there's no further comments. We have the recommendation proposed by Councillor Edwin, seconded by Councillor Upton. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Okay, at this stage I need to, in terms of the exclusion of the public for item number 8, so I just need to relieve this notice. It's to move that under Regulation 21 1B of the Local Authority Executive Arrangements, Access to Information in England, Regulations 2000, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972.